my fellow human beings, and welcome to episode 162 of The Best Blessed Life. I'm your best host, Kristen, and today's topic is a cookbook and first look. So many books, so little cake. Before we get started, I want to thank you all for watching. Please continue to watch, comment, share, like, subscribe, ring that bell, and please pass them on to anyone you think they would help. With that being said, here's our list of things to do today. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at The Best Blessed Life and on Facebook at Kristen Haas, KristinHass. That's right, 1A, 2 S's. And then you can see my daily mantras that just went up because I've been out of internet, so I'm running on no data. So everything is taking like 9 hours to post, and I keep forgetting that. So make sure to check that out. You can also follow me on TikTok and Twitter at The Best Blessed Life on TikTok and The Best Blessed Life on Twitter with life with a 1 instead of an I. Okay, and then we're going to talk about our new challenge, which is use your power of observation. And that leads me to our topic of conversation, which is take time to really see. To really see. And I'm going to explain that in a minute. And I decided, because I have like 10 books to go through, I got a big book dump because it's taken me a long time to get back to these. Let me turn up the lights a little bit, huh? I'll do that as I'm talking. Isn't that great? It's taken me a long time to get back to these segments. Wow. Hello. It's like daytime out now. Wow. So instead of overwhelming myself, but trying to come up with a food item from each individual one, which is hard to do because a lot of them don't even mention food. So I'm grasping at straws. So what I decided to do was to take my favorite book and then make something. Now, they mentioned food, I know they did, but for the life of me, I couldn't find anywhere where it talked about the food. So I took it from the setting, which is like the state, basically, and then I also took it from the era or the time frame, so like the 2010s. Okay, so we got 10 books to go through, and I decided to make, and this is what leads me to Sunshine Cake. And I'm making mine with a twist. So Sunshine Cake comes from Florida, and that's where this book is based out of. But I am not necessarily going to do these books. I'm not going to do that book first. I'm going to go through them in the order that Magnus and I read them. As I'm making this cake, I'm going to go through the 10 books and give you the synopsis that's on the cover or inside, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm going to give you the briefest review. Because honestly, some of them I read a bit ago and they really didn't stick with me all that much. So we've run into this. One was really long and a true story about war, and that one was really hard to deal with. Knowing I wanted to know facts about, the different conflicts and things, but reading it out loud to your dog, even though he's an animal, I'm thinking in my head, oh my God, this is just horrific. So, and I'm having an eye twitching problem. So yay! Anyway, we are making Sunshine Cake. And Sunshine Cake normally comes with cream cheese frosting. But another Florida favorite is double chocolate cake. So what I've decided to do was mash the Sunshine Cake together with the double chocolate cake. So we're making the cake and all of its, ingredients based on the Sunshine Cake. And we're making the frosting based on the double chocolate. I think it's double chocolate. But, and I'm a lover of chocolate covered orange things. So I might even add a little bit of chocolate chips in there too. because I need the chocolate represented in the cake elsewhere. So I think mini chocolate chips wouldn't be out of the question, and I think it'd be quite delicious. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to read the ingredients, and then I think I'm going to do the first book, and then I'm going to go over and do some mixing, because you know the fun part about mixing. I can't do that that technique that I did with the cookies. I can't do it with this cake. I just don't want to. I want to kind of follow the recipe. I am and I'm not. So, all right. So the Sunshine State, it's actually Sunshine State Orange Crunch Cake. I know, right? So, and the nice thing is we get to use just a basic yellow box cake mix. And then I'm not going to hold this up because it's like so small. 1/3 cup oil, and I have a substitution for that. 3 eggs, which I forgot to grab. I'm just on a roll for forgetfulness today. A 16-ounce can of mandarin oranges in the juice, 2 teaspoons of orange extract, an 8-ounce can of crushed pineapple, and 1 puff pastry sheet. I know, this is crazy, right? Okay, so my substitutions are for the oil, I'm going to use 1/3 cup of browned butter. And it's solid, but it's room temperature. I'm still using the 3 eggs. This is 1 16-ounce can of the mandarin oranges. What they want you to do is crush the oranges and reserve the liquid. Okay, so you're going to use, if you can get a cup of liquid out, that's what you need. But if you don't get a cup of juice out, then you add to it by adding just water. I bet you could add orange juice too. I don't know how that would change the acid in there would change anything. Okay, 2 teaspoons of orange extract. I do not have orange extract. I have a lot of extracts, but that's not one of them. So I'm just going to use vanilla. And then I am omitting, yes, I know I said I wanted to follow the recipe to a T, but I kind of lied. I'm omitting the pineapple. Yeah, don't judge me. I wanted it to be more orange based, and I think crushed oranges is enough of a fruit in a cake. That's just my opinion. Okay, so I'm going to be walking you through the steps with those set ingredients after I grab the 3 eggs, of course. And then I'll give you the recipe for the frosting when we reach that part of it. Yeah, my eggs are not going to be room temperature, but she also didn't say they needed to be room temperature. So I'm going to let these sit for a minute, and now I'm going to go over the first book, which would be the furthest away. I'm going up to, I'm leading from older to more recent, okay? So this is the first one, and I am not partial to fiction, nonfiction. It's strictly, if you haven't been watching my show, it's a book club with just me and my dog, and I read to my dog out loud, and we pick free books from like lending libraries, or my actual library gives away free books. So we get those from there, and basically we read them, we try to tolerate them, we try not to judge them based on their cover, and we don't read the summary, okay, until I present them to you. And I might have presented a couple of these, and I'm not really sure, but I know overall these are the books that didn't get their own recipe. And they're still not going to, because I'm not going to do all of them. I'm just going to do my favorite. Okay, so this one is by James McManus, and it's an autobiography of sorts. It's called Positively Fifth Street, and it's about, it literally says murderers, cheetahs, like the animal, and Binion's World Series of Poker. So it takes place in the year 2000. It literally says in the spring of 2000, Harper's Magazine sent excuse me, Jim McManus to Las Vegas to cover the World Series of Poker, in particular, the mushrooming progress of women in the $23 million event and the murder of Ted Binion, the tournament's prodigal host, purportedly done in by a stripper and her boyfriend with a technique so outrageous it took a Manhattan pathologist to identify it. Whether a jury would convict the attractive young couple was another story altogether. But when McManus sets foot in town, the lure of the tables is too strong. He proceeds to risk his entire Harper's advance in a long shot attempt to play in the tournament himself, only with actual experience at the table, he tells his skeptical wife. Can he capture the hair-raising subtleties of the kind of poker that determines the world champion? The heart of the book is his deliciously suspenseful account of the tournament itself, the players, the hands, and his own unlikely progress in it. So, yes, he takes place in the he takes part in the tournament, and he does. I don't want to give too much away, but it is a true story. He does rather well. And he's covering the murder as well, because Ted Binion is his actual, it's actually his tournament. It started at his casino in Horseshoe Casino in Vegas. And he starts to date, Ted Binion starts to date this stripper, and they're into drugs and all kinds of things. And she's a younger girl and probably feels tied down to the older gentleman, and but it's intriguing because he's actually taking place in the World Series of Poker and talks about what he has to do to get to that point, and the buy-in and all that other stuff, and how he meets people along the way. He knew people along the way, so he's able to convey the atmosphere pretty well. I mean, it's a true story. It doesn't. Some of it shocks me. It's a good read. I liked it a lot. I wouldn't push it off on somebody. But if you're a poker player, if you like good intrigue, murder, I love a good true crime story. So I would say it was a good book. Well written by an actual person in the tournament of that year, and how well he did and how he learned to deal with the other poker players and stuff like that. Okay, the next we're going to cover is Sandra Brown, The Alibi, and it's basically the sensational murder of one of Charleston's most powerful citizens, real estate tycoon Lute Pettijohn, rocks the city and gives ambitious prosecutor Hammond Cross his chance to become the city's next district attorney if he wins the case. His investigation turns up no shortage of people who want Pettijohn dead, but when the prime suspect turns out to be a mysterious woman who holds a secret that can shatter Hammond's ambitions, he faces a moral dilemma and a haunting question. Was he set up to be a perfect alibi? So this one, the guy meets this woman at a fair, festival, whatever you want to call it. And they start basically flirting with each other and end up in a one-night stand, I would say, but leads to other things. And then becomes it's very suspenseful. It has a lot of twists and turns. It's very well written. I really liked this one. At first, I didn't think I was going to, because I started to judge the book by its cover, and it's very, I don't know, it's got a Ferris wheel on it, I didn't know what to expect. It seemed kind of whimsical, so I thought I was going to get more of that kind of detective story. But it's really good. I liked it a lot. I read it pretty quickly, if I remember, and I was shocked. I also thought I knew the murderer on that one, and I actually didn't. So there you go. Stand mixer, we're going to combine the egg mix, the cake mix, the oil, and I'm using butter, the eggs, and the can of the liquid, not the oranges. We're just going to use the liquid. Okay? So this is our yellow. This, I think, is Betty Crocker or Duncan Hines. I can't remember which one's which. But it's actually a butter yellow one. I don't know why I thought I cut that open already, but you know. Okay, so we're gonna put this in there. I do actually have extra liquid with my oranges. I wonder if I should dump that off. Okay, so that eggs, okay, then what's considered the oil. Oh, it got nice and liquidy, at least a little on the bottom. Oh, that's not in there all the way either. What did I do with my... I'm like, what did I do with my spatula? Yeah, okay. All righty. Here we go. Not even over there. Oh, I know where it's at now. It's with the frosting ingredients because I had to sift the powdered sugar and the cocoa powder for it. I forgot. I thought I was losing my mind. Okay, so cake mix, oil, eggs, and can of, okay. Here's our 3 eggs. Okay, I don't want to spill the vanilla all over the counter, so we're going to move it over there. Don't mind, I'm mumbling to myself. I don't even understand what I'm doing wrong. Okay. Whoa. Woo, yeah. I guess I gotta be not afraid to crack them harder, I guess, is my thing. All right, and let me wipe this off real quick. And let me get the paddle on here. Yes, I know I had to add the orange liquid, but let me just get this going real quick here. Come on. Okay. I just didn't want it to be one big puddle and it splash, you know. The combination of the two things together just makes it really kind of ridiculous, you know? Whoa! I'm gonna see if I can get, I don't know if it's supposed to be that liquidy, you know? All right. Ooh, that brown butter in there. Whoa, I just got a whiff of that. That's so good. Oh my gosh, that smells amazing. I'm so excited. Okay, here goes our 1 cup. I'm scared. It feels like too much liquid. You understand my hesitation, right? Why would I put, I guess we do for cake mixes. Just feels like a lot. I'm gonna do a little bit at a time and see what happens. Okay. See, I'm glad it seemed like it was gonna be sloppy. Add oranges, extract. I thought there was another thing. And pineapple, if you're doing pineapple. It seems like so much liquid for this little bit of cake mix. To the point where I want to make sure I get most of this liquid out of my oranges. And that was a 16-ounce can. And here's our vanilla. We're doing vanilla. You can do the orange. Almond might be good. All right, so we're back to it. And then what happens? Okay, so we're also baking a piece of puff pastry that she had us cut into an 8-inch circle and then set between 2 pieces of 2 cookie sheets. And I saved the rest of it because I figured, why the hell not? Might as well cook it instead of just throwing it away. So that is going to go into the oven with our cake. Doesn't say how long I'm supposed to mix this for. I'm going to give it some floof. The only thing about cake mix is that I have to separate the dough out. I get pretty flustered because I want them even, especially when the pans are the same size. I want them even, and it's really hard to eyeball it for me. I'm gonna try it. I think I need to sit down. Oh my God. So freaking good. It's not super orangey, I would say. Oh my gosh. And that brown butter in there. And the vanilla. Oh my gosh. That was really quite scrumptious, if I do say so myself. All right. Let's get that shooken off. Oh my, I want to try it one more time just to make sure it wasn't a fluke. All right, so I wonder if, it's like I wish I could eyeball it better, but I wonder if I put it in this measuring cup. Do you think I have 4 cups of batter? Or do I use this one? Let's just make sure that we have all of the stuff off the bottom before I get all excited about pouring it evenly and all that crap. I know people say to weigh it, but I didn't weigh my bowl. So I guess, you know what, that would work. Never mind. I'm gonna weigh it. Because then whatever the half of it is, right? Does that work? No, probably not. Plus it'll be easier to pour from that. I'm just gonna do it. Here we go. Let's do this. Okay. Get in there. Okay. And then we're going to pour it in there. Okay. I'm glad I went with this one. I don't think the glass one would have been big enough. Let me turn it over here for a second. Trying to get the last little bit off the bottom. Okay. All right, this bakes for 35 minutes, and while we're letting it bake, I'm going to go through the other. Okay, 988 grams. And I need to wash this because I need that for the frosting. Okay. I really did make a mess. Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. Here's our 2 pans. And then I can do, let's see. So half of 989 is 2 goes into 9 4 times. 4 times 440 something. Why can I not do math? That's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Don't judge me. 494 and a half. And I have these ceramic ones. She wanted you to flour, so I'm assuming to get, but I'm going to be brave and trust my ceramic pan. What do you think? Am I crazy? Okay. All right, 494. Here we go. It seems like so much. Shoot, now it is too much now. I gotta go back a little bit. Let me get a spoon. I don't know if people need to be this technical about it. You know, I don't think it's that serious, perhaps, but I like to try. Okay. Come on. It's really not even that much. Okay. And then I like how the butter has made it speckled. It's kind of fun. Okay. And hopefully come on out. I gotta get that all out. Yeah, it lied to me. I gotta get every last speckle off of here because that's what changes it in grams. Okay. Close enough, right? I think it's more because you want them to cook as evenly as possible. So I'm going to just take a whisper. Let's see what that does. Absolutely nothing. Why bother? Why even bother? I don't think it's that serious. Do you guys? We'll go back like that. Okay. Okay, we're done. As good as it gets, right? Okay. And then this and the puff pastry cook at the same time. I guess the same amount of time. She really didn't specify. So here's the fun, right? I don't want this to mess up that. And I might have to swap midway. All right, so that's in there. I keep saying I want to use my convection oven to cook with, and I keep forgetting. All right, so one. I think that was it, right? 35 minutes. Yep. Okay. Pretty even. Let's scooch, scooch, scooch. Okay. 35 minutes. Timer. I'm very excited about this. And then I can go right into the frosting too, after I washed my pan, my bowl. But Maiden Voyage is our next book by Graham Masterton. The year is 1924, the time of Great Jay Gatsby, the Black Bottom, Deco, and Daimler's prosperity, Silent Cal, Coolidge, Jazz Babies, and debutantes. And it was the year that the SS Arcadia, flagship of Key's shipping line, limited and the greatest liner ever to touch keels to saltwater, was to make its maiden voyage from Liverpool to New York. On board was Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford, Jack Dempsey, 250 pounds of Mosolo, caviar, 18 varieties of champagne, a 2,000-pound, and that's not tons, that's money, chow named Chunam Brillantine, and young Catriona Keyes, heiress of Key's shipping, and after her father's recent death. Thrust suddenly from her comfortable London life into the role of flapper of the seas, Catriona learns that in addition to the large fortune, she has also become the inheritor of a tremendous task. The success or failure of Key's shipping, the company advisors tell her, rests on the Arcadia's maiden voyage and on Catriona's own shoulders. And it basically, the whole story, other than the beginning where the father dies, takes place on this ocean liner. And lots of nefarious and just downright felonious things happen on this thing, and mostly to women, and kind of blown off, essentially, which was disheartening to my whole, mind frame these days. But let me tell you, though, it's very well written. It's a really good book, but I'm infuriated because it was supposed to make me infuriated. You know what I'm saying? So, in a sense, I did what I was supposed to do. The next one we're going to cover, this is one of my favorites, but not my favorite. This is like favorite adjacent. It's called Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jesse Q. Sutanto. And it was a USA Today bestseller. Basically, it says a lonely shopkeeper takes it upon herself to solve murder in the most spectacular way. Vera Wang is a lonely little old lady, lady of a certain age, who lives above her forgotten tea shop in the middle of San Francisco's Chinatown. Despite living alone, Vera's not needy. Oh no, she likes nothing more than sipping on a good cup of oolong and doing some healthy detective work on the internet about what her Gen Z son is up to. Then one morning, Vera trudges downstairs to find a curious thing, a dead man in the middle of her tea shop. In his outstretched hand is a flash drive. Vera doesn't know what comes over her, but after calling the cops like any good citizen would, she sort of swipes the flash drive from the body and tucks it safely into the pocket of her apron. Why? Because Vera is sure she will do a better job than the police possibly can. Nobody sniffs out a wrongdoing quite like a suspicious Chinese mother with time on her hands. Vera knows the killer will be back for the flash drive. All she has to do is watch the increasing number of customers at her shop and figure out which one among them is the killer. What Vera does not expect is to form friendships with her customers and start to care for each and every one of them. As a protective mother hen, will she end up having to give one of her newfound chicks to the police? This book is so good, and this little synopsis is so written like Vera herself. Like she's so kind and loving and just over the top with her son, wants to know what he's doing at all times, and of course he pretty much ignores her. And she is just, she's gonna figure it all out. She knows all the answers. She can feel it. That's what she says. The next one is Avi the Traitor's Gate. Now this one, I wasn't sure I was going to like, but I did find out, or it did turn out that it was something I really did enjoy. The synopsis is, and again, keep in mind, I've never read any of these synopsises before I read them to you. John Huffam is sure the tall man's beard is false. He's sure of little else in November of 1849. The year he is 14. The year his father is sentenced to London's White Cross Street prison. Maybe the man following John, who claims to be one Inspector Copperfield, can explain why. Surely Pa isn't prepared to reveal the truth any more than the jovial bailiff, Mr. Tuckham, who knows something but remains mum. Or the little Frenchman, Mr. Farquhar, who courts John's sister but seems most keen on Pa's work at the Naval Ordnance Office. Or Mr. O'Doul, the Irishman, who insists Pa owes him the unimaginable sum of 300 pounds. Or what of the one-legged, single-mindedly fierce Sergeant Moldspoon John's teacher? What about the boy's great-great-aunt, Lady Euphemia Huffam, who could pay the debt but won't for reasons of her own? What about the secretive Mr. Snugsby of All Hallows Church, who hides himself away in the city's most voluminous coat? Then there's Chief Inspector Ratchet of Scotland Yard, who is after somebody for some crime or other. True, John has a new friend and ally in Sari the Sneak, but what has even she got up her sleeve? What John learns on his own is that there's a traitor on the loose somewhere, and he must uncover the villain, no matter who it might be. Let me tell you, I loved this book. It was fun. It's quirky. It just, yeah. And I think it's written by Avi, and the name of it is Traitor's Gate, because, yeah, that's the author. Really good book. I highly recommend. Any of these books that I've read, you can also request in the comment section of this video if you want any of them, and I will send them to you. Okay, here it is. My favorite so far. This one and the very first one I read actually are one of my favorites. But this one is The Lies About Truth, and it is quite the tearjerker. But you feel for each and every one of these kids and their parents. I'll read you the synopsis. Sadie Kingston is living in the aftermath. A year after surviving a car accident that killed her friend Trent and left her body and face scarred, she can't move forward. The only person who seems to understand her is Trent's brother, Max. As Sadie begins to fall for Max, she's unsure if she is truly healed enough to be with him. But Max looks at her scars and doesn't shy away. And Max knows about the list she writes in the sand at the beach every night. The list of things that Sadie knows she must accomplish before she can move on from the accident. And while he can help her with the number 6, kiss someone without flinching, she knows she's on her own with number 3, forgive Gina and Gray, and the rest of the seemingly impossible tasks that must be made possible before she can live in the now again. This one, I cannot begin to tell you how I didn't know where the story was going. I had no idea because I don't read the back. And to start out, I'll just read the first sentence, if I can find it here. Night was like Christmas. There wasn't nearly enough of it to go around, especially in June. At 8:55, I walked down our little bayside street, crossed the road, and wound through the lot of the worthy wayfarer toward what I hoped was an empty shore. My company consisted of sand, circular thoughts, and a wretched pair of shorts. Fletcher, my therapist, thought getting me back in clothes that didn't cover my whole body, even at night, was a step in the right direction. It's so well written. You actually feel like you know these people, and you can kind of feel like what you would feel like if it was happening to you. All right, let me get one more done here before. This one was so quirky, and again, I had no idea where I was going with this one. It's called Cosmic, and it's by Frank Cottrell Boyce. And Liam has always felt there's a piece of tape here, a bit like he's stuck between two worlds. This is primarily because he's a 12-year-old kid who looks like he's about 30. Sometimes it's not so bad, like when his new principal mistakes him for a teacher on the first day of school, or when he convinces a car dealer to let him take a Porsche out on a test drive. But mostly it's frustrating, being a kid trapped in an adult world, and so he decides to flip things around. Liam cons his way onto the first spaceship to take civilians into space, a special flight for a group of kids and an adult chaperone, and he's going as the adult chaperone. It's not long before Liam, along with his friends, is stuck between two worlds again, only this time he's 239,000 miles from home. So this is a 12-year-old kid that now has to chaperone other 12-year-old kids because he presented himself as the dad of a 12-year-old kid. It's frustrating. It's mind-boggling. It's fun. It's quirky. It's like, oh, come on. Can he really look? But, it's all perspective. And if you've never met this kid before, you don't know that he's 12 years old because, I think they describe him like he's 6'4" or 5 or something and already has facial hair. And it's a good book. So far, I haven't run across too many
But yeah, all right, let me get going on this frosting a little bit. So in the mixing bowl, I have on my whisk attachment. We're gonna add our butter and whisk on medium-high. I already have my butter in here, and I probably should have whisked it before I even came back, but we'll see what happens, how long it takes us to get our butter whisking. Okay, we're about halfway with our cake. Smells good. All right, we all know my mixer doesn't do fluffy. So it says add the sifted sugar and cocoa powder to the bowl and mix until combined. Okay, well the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna scrape the butter off the bottom because it's not really gonna whisk into anything if it's all stuck there. You know what I'm saying, right? Okay. So yeah, I just wanna get that off the bottom a little bit. And then I also like to remove the attachment because I always find that it's in the way. All right, so this is our sugar and our cocoa. So yeah, we had a good amount of storms that came through. We actually got hit by a EF2 tornado right down the street from me. Knocked out about, I don't know, 4 or 5 power poles. And we got hit with a power outage, but we did not get hit, which is crazy because people on my street, like the damage wasn't really to their actual houses, but I have a neighbor who had a ginormous branch from his tree come down on both the cars in his driveway. So fun times, scary. We had power outage for a little bit, but the neighbors in the cul-de-sac that have, you know, we're closer to the power poles, just got their power back, I think, yesterday.
I'm trying to get this to mix a little bit faster only because all my butter portion is on my whisk right now. And I want it to come flying. Well, not flying, but you know what I'm saying. All right. I did not give you the list of ingredients for this, did I? Okay, and the other thing I did too was they wanted a 1.5 cups of butter, 6 cups of powdered sugar, 1 cup of cocoa powder, 3/4 cup heavy cream, 2 teaspoons of vanilla. What I did was I did the 1 cup of butter, so I did 4 cups of powdered sugar, 2/3 cup of cocoa powder, 1/2 cup of heavy cream, and I'm probably still going to do the 2 teaspoons of vanilla. We'll see. Oh, you know what? Let me scrape this real quick. I just don't use that much frosting, and it just seems like such a waste to... I'm not a huge froster. I don't put like thick layers on. I know some people would like me to put more frosting on. I'm just not, I don't know. I want you to be able to taste the cake because a lot of times I'm making the cake from scratch and want to showcase both aspects of it. And I feel like frosting can be pretty, you know, can be overpowering. Resume. I'm going to turn it down. I don't want it flying everywhere. And while that's mixing, because I think that's going to take a minute. The next one we read was called Nothing to See Here. Now, based on the picture, you would begin to wonder, like, what's really going on here? And honestly, I did too, because again, I did not read the cover. The synopsis. Lillian and Madison were unlikely roommates and yet inseparable friends at their boarding school. But then Lillian had to leave the school unexpectedly in the wake of a scandal, and they barely spoken since. Until now, more than 10 years later, when Lillian gets a letter from Madison pleading for her help. Madison's twin stepkids are moving in with her family, and she wants Lillian to be their caretaker. However, there's a catch. The twins spontaneously combust when they get agitated, flames igniting from their skin in a startling but beautiful way. Lillian is convinced Madison is pulling her leg, but it's the truth. Thinking of her dead-end life at home, the life that has consistently disappointed her, Lillian figures she has nothing to lose. Over the course of one humid, demanding summer, Lillian and the twins learn to trust one another and stay cool while also staying out of the way of Madison's buttoned-up politician husband. Surprised by her own ingenuity, yet unused to the intense feelings of protectiveness she feels for them, Lillian ultimately begins to accept that she needs these strange children as much as they need her, urgently and fiercely. Couldn't this be the start of the amazing life she'd always hoped for? Let me tell you, when I started reading about that, like in the book, I was just like, what? Come on now. Let's be real here, people. It's a good story, though. I like the premise. And if you think about it, it's not so much that she was protecting them from, you know, themselves, but how the outside world perceived them, and how she kept them and did all these amazing things to keep them from getting to that point where they would spontaneously. So it was, if you think of it as a way that parents should, and all of us should look at the way we handle children when they're going through crises, including being set on fire, and how, oh my gosh, you know, it's perceived by them, because we get their perspective too, which is truly helpful in a sense that I can't remember how old they are, to be honest. But they cannot keep stuff bottled in, because that's what leads to all this explosive, igniting behavior. And she learns to deal with how it happens and what happens, and that kind of thing. So it's really a sweet story about how this person who isn't a mother becomes their mother in a sense. And it's really quite beautiful. And then we get to the last two. And let me tell you a little story. While I love history and I love learning about things, and in a sense, as we learn history in school and the way the true facts are, it comes to your attention that maybe we should all be looking for what truly happened, and how things came about and why they came about and all that other fantastical stuff, right? This one was the hardest one I've read so far. It's very detailed. It's very horrific. It's very, oh my God, disturbing. So basically, James Bradley's the #1 bestseller. He writes pretty much nonfiction, I'm assuming. So now in Flyboys, Bradley returns to World War II in an extraordinary and totally unknown true story of courage. Over the remote Pacific island Chichijima, 9 American flyers, Navy and Marine airmen sent to bomb Japanese communication towers there, were shot down. One of those 9 was miraculously rescued by a U.S. Navy submarine. The others were captured by Japanese soldiers on Chichijima and held prisoner. Then they disappeared. When the war was over, the American government, along with the Japanese, covered up everything that had happened on Chichijima. The records of a top-secret military tribunal were sealed. The lives of the 8 flyboys were erased, and the parents, brothers, sisters, and sweethearts they left behind were left to wonder. Flyboys reveals for the first time ever the extraordinary story of those men. Bradley's quest for the truth took him from dusty attics in American small towns to untapped government archives containing classified documents to the heart of Japan, and finally to Chichijima itself. What he discovered was a mystery that dated back far before World War II, back 150 years to America's westward expansion and Japan's first confrontation with the Western world. Bradley brings into vivid focus these brave young men who went to war for their country, and through their lives he also tells the larger story of 2 nations in a hellish war with no easy moralizing. Bradley presents history in all its savage complexity, including the Japanese warrior mentality that fostered inhuman brutality and the U.S. military strategy that justified attacks on millions of civilians. And after almost 60 years of mystery, Bradley finally reveals the fate of the 8 American flyboys, all of whom would ultimately face a moment and decision that few of us can even imagine. It's insane. I cannot even begin to tell you the type of stuff that went on, but all I can say, if you're a true historian that wants facts, but be prepared, because you can't unread You can't unread. That's all I can say. And so it was quite the, whew, quite the traumatizing read. So I couldn't read it, some of it for days at a time, you know, just thinking, oh my God. Horrific, 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 horrific. Okay, we're gonna keep going here a little bit at a time. Okay, and our most recent read, another one that wasn't that pleasing to read about, was No Eye Can See. And this one, I'll just read you the synopsis first. It's by Jane Kirkpatrick. When blind and widowed Suzanne Culver reaches California with a group of women who have survived tragedy on the Oregon Trail, she sets her mind on doing for herself all that must be done. Though she cannot see, she rejects offers of assistance, unwittingly risking her children's safety and her own. Her companions blindly falter as well, held hostage by their own past, as Suzanne attempts to control her life in Shasta City. Ruth defends against past errors, failing to see how she limits love. Meanwhile, Macy's vision seems to be permanently clouded by her late husband's betrayal. But when a young stage driver risks all for a Wintu Indian, his life becomes entangled with the turnaround women. And together they are changed forever as they discover that no eye can see all the good God has in store for those who love him. Really good book, really hard to read. It's hard to follow around and keep track of everybody's name and such, but I liked it. I like to hear women, you know, even back, especially back then, you know, doing for themselves, moving even though their husbands have died, and, you know, they're trying to bring their family stability and honor and keeping them going and keeping them fed and keeping them alive. Back in those days was an accomplishment in and of itself, right? So, oh my gosh. I had to pick the biggest bowl possible, didn't I? I'm trying to see if I can get, there we go. But, and the fact of the matter is, we all have perceptions of how we're supposed to go about life. And I think that's why I made this the challenge about powers of perception, and I made the talk about really seeing. And when I talk about that, this woman who's blind could see a lot better than a lot of us sighted people, because she paid attention to things that weren't necessarily in our wheelhouse. A lot of us can't hear very well, or we have earbuds in and we're just not paying attention. But it also comes down to the fact that, are you really seeing? Like, are you quieting your soul and hearing what you're seeing? Because we have all those senses to do with all, you know, I shouldn't say all of us have those senses, but if you're lucky to have all of your senses, it is a truly magical gift to use them together, to observe before you speak. I was always told, you know, you were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, because you should listen twice as much as you speak. And while it's hard not to justify your own actions in said conversations, it is important to understand where the other person is coming from. And sometimes that takes, you know, observation and listening. Okay. Cool. Okay, it did say it was supposed to be a sponge cake type deal, and I do believe we have achieved that. It kind of reminds me of cornbread in a sense. It's a very sturdy cake, I can tell. I don't think I have to worry about it sticking to the sides or oh, these are heavy. Or being underdone. Whew. All right, I'm gonna give that a minute to cool down. I do want to lift it up to see if I can. Okay, so I don't know if you can see. I'll show you that all in a minute. Okay. I don't want to get this frosting overmixed, which I probably just did. Crap. So that catches us up on all the books. And talking about the last book was really helpful segue into really seeing. Pay attention to what you're really, really seeing. And I got too greedy because I decided I was going to get the cakes out, right? What am I stepping on? Oh, fun. Okay. And the first one, of course, wasn't having any of it. Didn't want to come out. I got the other one to come out, so what I thought I would do is put the puff pastry that we baked along with the cake on top of, oh, that got really golden brown. Like here's the top, but here's the bottom. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this like this and then flip the whole thing over onto that. One hopes. So I'm back. I'm finally in some semblance of order here. So we're gonna frost this bad boy. I see a big blob of chocolate. How is that possible? I whipped this forever. You'd think it would be. All right, so we're gonna spread it all around. Our cake's a little lopsided on the bottom, so I think I'm glad we put this broken part on the bottom. And so basically we want to take it down the side. We want to be careful about our little broken pieces so we don't mess that up. As you can see, it's a thinner cake. It is more of a sponge cake. And had I been a little bit more patient and, you know, I have a turntable. I could have put my cake on there and done the really nice and pretty. But no, God forbid I do that, huh? Okay. So nice even layer on the bottom. Again, I'm not doing anything super fancy. You know, if you don't like orange, you could always probably do the same kind of cake, but with a different fruit. You could do strawberries and then do chocolate. You could use your cream cheese frosting here if you're not a big chocolate and orange fan. They just had you use make a basic, you know, cream cheese. And then maybe I do a little bit on the top just to get it to stick. I don't know. We'll give it a shot. Sounds good, right? Give it a little underneath frost. I'm so intrigued by how this like crispy layer is going to work. Is my cake straight? No, it's going to be very lopsided. Don't judge. Okay, don't judge. We're just gonna eat it anyway. We weren't making it for somebody's birthday or nothing. And then bring that down the side as well, I'm guessing. I should have looked at the recipe for the other part. And then this guy goes on the top. There's such a shiny, aspect to it. And I think even with how much frosting is left in here, I feel like I made too much, but it might just be enough once we cover everything. There we go. I still got a lot, so don't worry. Spread it out. I have gotten to the point while doing this show that I feel like while critical of myself, have learned to appreciate however it comes out. I mean, flavor-wise, no, it's got to be good that way. But however it looks on the plate, I think is beside the point if the flavor and the intent of what was supposed to happen is there. You know, we're not cake decorators by trade. I mean, at least I'm not. I shouldn't say we. But I just want it to look cohesive. Sad thing is, I cannot give it a try as of right now because I have to do pictures. Sorry to say. I would like, you know, some full cake pictures first before I try it. But don't you worry. You'll get my full review. As far as my healthy breakfast, guys, you guys got to try those. They're super fun. You can change them up however you need to. And I think they're super fun and healthy. Okay. Is it the most beautiful plate? No. Let's see if I can get it cleaned off a little bit. Let's see here. Go around, go around. Yeah, and the nice thing about doing it with your finger, you get to eat it. All right. Okay. Well, there she is, guys. Our beautiful Sunshine State Orange Crunch Cake with a twist. We use chocolate frosting instead of cream cheese frosting. And I can't wait to give it a try. I look forward to giving you a strong review. And I think, other than saying, take time to observe. Take time to rest. Take time to enjoy a little bit of chocolate frosting. I think that's about does it, guys. I thank you so much for all your support. Please continue to watch. I'm just going to keep getting better and better. Keep in mind, this is not healthy. But all things in moderation, as I wipe every bit of chocolate off me everywhere. And with that, I hope you have a good day. Go do great things. Be your best self. And please live your best blessed life. Thanks for watching.